What a test match. What two tests, actually, we've had between the All Blacks and England. The full-time whistle has just gone. So if you're looking to avoid the result, then now is the time to click off the video and come back once you have caught up. But a 2-0 series win for New Zealand. But another tight test match as well, a game that could have gone either way. So welcome back to the channel. Give me your thoughts in the comments section. What did you make of the match? What did you make of it from the perspective of both teams who had a lot of good stuff in the game? Certainly some things to work on as well. And whilst you're here, like the video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. As I say, I thought this was a brilliant test match. It was back and forth. There was some great play from both teams and it went right down to the wire once again. From an England perspective, again, I think there are so many positives for them to take out of this series, even though they have lost it 2-0. You look at the manner of some of those performances, they're going to be disappointed, but they're going to be really pleased with some of the stuff they have done. And again, I think you look at this game, similar to the first test, they lost it in that final quarter, after the hour mark, really. And I think that came down to two things for me. Number one, the bench. We suspected it could be the case, but just the experience on that All Blacks bench has made a big, big difference in both test matches. Beauden Barrett in particular coming off the bench in this second one, there was just a real change once he came on. And you compare that with the experience that England are coming on or bringing on in a lot of positions, with the exception of Dan Cole and maybe Tom Curry. I think that had a big impact. And also from an England perspective, probably the biggest frustration for me with this game was kicking it away in good positions. But after they'd given themselves the lead, what was it? It was 17-13 after 48 minutes when Marcus Smith kicked the penalty in the second half. So they gave themselves that little bit of buffer. And for probably, another 15 minutes or so, they consistently put themselves in good positions in the New Zealand 22. And you kept seeing them kick the ball away. And there was a few occasions where I just thought, keep it in hand. But that's my biggest frustration. Overall, I think this tour and this series has displayed that England are now able to compete with the best teams in the world. When you look at the body of work we've had, if you look back at the Six Nations, the win against Ireland, the narrow defeat away in France, and then these two tests here, they are massively heading in the right direction. And just the way in which their game has changed as well. I think defensively with the blitz defence, but just in attack, this England team is so much more dynamic and exciting than they had been for a long, long period, for literally years before that. They are tracking in the right direction. So for this series, I'm looking at the positives far more than the disappointment. I wonder how much of the narrative is going to be another missed opportunity for England, another tight game where they haven't got themselves over the line. I think the fact that this team is growing and is developing, and there are real clear signs of progress, I'm feeling more positive than I am looking at it frustrated, but I understand why people might consider that. I think these tight games eventually, if this team keeps moving on the trajectory it currently is, these are the sorts of games they will eventually start winning on a more consistent basis. That's the next hurdle for them to get over. There was also the big decision at the end, wasn't there? I think it was probably fair from the referee. I know Jamie George looked frustrated. I must admit, watching it, I felt that Ollie Lawrence was still bound to Dan Cole for quite a long time before the New Zealand players engaged with him. I thought him and Jamie George were still bound, so maybe it wasn't a penalty, but then it was probably held up anyway, I suspect. So I don't know if there's going to be much fallout in terms of controversy over that. I actually thought Nick Berry had an excellent game. We're quick to bash and get on the back of referees in this day and age. I thought he officiated it superbly. But I've spoken for 4 minutes and haven't said too much about New Zealand, which maybe isn't too fair given the fact that they've won the series 2-0 and two narrow defeats as well. Sorry, two narrow wins as well, two narrow defeats for England. And it's clear there is a lot for this New Zealand team to work on. They are far from perfect. The line-out in particular, it got a bit better in the kind of second half, the latter stages of the second half, but there were times where it was an absolute mess. And I don't know why that is. They looked just all over the place at line-out time, which actually in that first half, I think was a big part of the reason that England were able to go up in the lead, because New Zealand, for the majority of the first half, I was watching it and thinking, it felt to me like New Zealand were comfortably the better team and dictating the game and controlling the game. But England, who took their two tries brilliantly in that first half, by the way, were just able to execute a bit better when it mattered, so had that lead at halftime. But I think across the game, New Zealand controlled it. Overall, maybe not for... There was that 20-minute period maybe after half-time where England controlled the game. Overall, I thought New Zealand were the better team, but they have some real things to work on, that line-out being one of them. But I guess overall, given the fact that it is the start of a new era, Scott Robertson coming in, new captain, they've been pushed, they've been tested, and they have held on and they have found a way to win these games. And that's going to give them a lot of encouragement moving forward, whilst the reality is they need to improve. In particular, the set piece and the line-out, I think. The set piece was actually a funny area of the game, wasn't it? It was a tale of two set pieces in the first half. New Zealand scrum looked good, England under pressure. New Zealand line-out good, New Zealand all over the place. And it kind of went back and forth a little bit for both of those sides. Elsewhere, I suppose Mark Talea is worth a massive mention here. 2 tries for him. Out of all the wingers in the world, he is one of those players that, like with Cheslin Colbert, you know what he does really, really well, or Kurtley Aronson, or even if you want to look at Faye Wabosa in this game, he is explosive, he is exciting. Talea almost doesn't feel as exciting a player, but is consistently so good and such a handful to deal with. I thought he was brilliant again today. In fact, I thought that battle on the wing between him and Faye Wabosa was pretty intriguing. From an England perspective, I want to mention Mauro Itoje, because overall I thought he was excellent. He was a menace at the New Zealand line-out. He was strong at the line-out for England. He does so much good stuff, causes so many problems. He's here, there and everywhere. But he does play on the edge. He plays on the edge, which means it's such a fine balance between doing something brilliant and giving away penalties. And actually, in the final quarter of that game, when England did lose control of it, he was offside for the penalty, which made it a kind of converted try for them to level it up. Off the restart, he then had the high tackle on, was it Geordie Barrett, I think, to give away a penalty. And then he had another penalty in there as well. I'm forgetting what it was now, but possibly at the breakdown. And he had a couple of penalties in key areas that just hurt England. Now look, he's a brilliant player. He doesn't get taken off because his ability to impact matches is so great. There's just a few things there that at key moments in that game when England needed to take control of it again, that really cost them, I thought. I thought Marcus Smith was good at fly half. You know, given the fact that George Ford hasn't been there, this has been an opportunity on this tour for Marcus Smith to have that 10 jersey. I thought he was very, very good. His crossfield kicks and the way that Faye Wabosa and Freeman executed those crossfield kicks on their end and on the wingers' part to score the tries was brilliant as well. So yeah, I think overall I feel like there's so many positives for England, but it's 2 narrow defeats. I think there will be some people that look back and say this was a real opportunity to make more of a statement. And as I've said already, I think that's the next development for this team. I think they are capable of competing with the best teams in the world now, which had not been the case for a long, long time. But they now need to find a way to get over the line in these really, really tight games. As for New Zealand, I thought there's some great stuff there. They started off incredibly disciplined. I think it was about half an hour into the game that they gave away their first penalty. They were physically dominant. They were controlling things. There's probably just a few little bits of detail, in particular, obviously, that line out, that's stopping them from really kicking on in games and blowing teams away in the way that they maybe would have done in previous eras. I guess what you say is that will come. With more time, Scott Robertson, these players together, they will get better. So let me know what you make of it. Was this a missed opportunity for England, or is it more, and I kind of see it this way, this is about a team that not that long ago were not very good. They are now up there with the best teams in the world. From a New Zealand point of view, Kiwi fans, what do you make of it? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Are you kind of just relieved and happy to get through the series with 2 wins, 2 narrow wins and kick on? Or do you look at the overall performances and think, well, you know, maybe when you're coming up against South Africa in the Rugby Championship, you need to be a lot better? I don't know. Let me know in the comments section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.